Alright, hello everyone. Today we're going to be talking about the upcoming Tokyo 1600 meters Champions Meet. This is going to be a Champions Meet where a lot of horses are viable here. Alright, it's a MooMooCows, it's very volatile and it's very optimal for quite a lot of horses. The acceleration phase is at the corner number 4 at 1067 meters and also a straight line at 1100 meters. This straight line will last for 500 meters, so it's a very long straight line which allows backliners to actually go and compete with the front runners. But front runners are still not out. They are able to actually secure a very strong lead and maintain it all the way to the end. That's also very possible because backliners can still get stuff like blocked or no procs or bad positioning, right? So that is still a very viable track for everyone. Pace chasers have their own excels, lead surgers have their own excels, so everyone can basically win here. All right, everyone has a possible way to win. Just choose your favorite horses and toss them in here, no problem at all. Right, so moving on, we have the disclaimers. For the disclaimers, Nimble Navigator is a very low proc chance because of the final corner spreading out, and it's very likely that you will wide swing in this kinds of situations, so it's very not awesome. It's like maybe a 10% 20% chance ish for your Nimble Navigator to even give you something. So if you want to go and gamble that, you can, but preferably save the skill points for something else if you have the option to. Right, in a vacuum, if you're not using any other special strategies, this track is more focused towards the backliners. Alright, just take note of that. That's really because of the new guts dueling mechanic. Back then on this track we did not have guts dueling. Right now we have guts dueling, so that is a very significant mechanic to allow us as backliner enjoyers to go and win more. Right, other than that, if you are considering certain horses, I've written a list of certain horses that I think some people might try to go and make, right? So I am going to just mention these horses right now. If you want to make Ardennes, for example, she does have a usable unique, but comes with no golds. She's like Oguri Cap in that regard, alright? So for that horse in particular, please try to go and pump her full of skills. I did not particularly put her in the tier list, but if you want to go and use her, feel free to go and use her, alright? She just requires a lot more effort. Oguri is also very awkward on this MooMooCows because there is no good proc chance for Festive Miracle, and there is also a very awkward situation of, hey, I need to pay for stamina skills on a track where I require almost no stamina. So that's something to take note of, right? Then if you want to really force her because you are desperate to force her every single CM, then you will need to go and get with Hydrate, Preferred Position, United Spirit, Stamina. Alright, these are the random corner recoveries, and they could possibly give you a good Festive Miracle proc, but you will also be wasting skill points on them, which is a very bad deal for Oguri here. Alright, so that's the reasonings why Oguri is not going to be meta on this track, even though we said that she was going to be very meta relevant. Alright, so that's it. Now we will move on to the parent tier list, which is revamped by Dev. Thank you, Dev. So this new style here is basically not a tier list, but basically an explanation. We are going to be forever explaining using the pizza analogy. The pizza analogy is that we have working accelerations, we have mid-leg speed skills, and we have finishing speed skills. So you want to get an even number of toppings on your pizza horse. Alright, if your horse innately is like Seiyun Sky 0.4 XL, then you need more mid-leg, exactly. Then you also want to get finishing speed skills if you can. So these are things that you want to go and hunt for. Alright, but if your horse has no accelerations, oh shit, I only have mid-legs, then okay, hunt down for the acceleration and maybe pick up a few finishing speed skills here and there to make your horse well-rounded, right? As long as you balance out the horse very well, the horse will be very strong. And then if you make the horse super accelerant but no mid-leg, then the horse may not be able to go and fight for the middle position or their 6th position or their whatever position you need to go and fight for. Alright, so that's the reasonings for all this pizza analogy stuff that I might be using in future videos. Next, let's talk about the excels in particular. We have Seiyun Sky, Angling and Scheming, 1st position, win the game. Nishino Flower, Budding Blossom, 3rd position, 4th position, final leg, win the game. Right, that's how Budding Blossom works. You will use it for your pace chasers primarily because 3rd and 4th is a little bit difficult for the lead surgers and pace chasers to go and for the lead surgers and end closers to go and fight for. Right, front runner also can technically get to the 3rd position, so you can do something like a get into 3rd because I lost really hard, then Budding Blossom all the way to the front and then Angling and Scheming. I feel like that's super dumb, so I wouldn't really recommend it, and the lobbies are going to be very random. Alright, I can assure you the lobbies are very random. You could get a lobby of like 9 backliners, and you can get a lobby of like 6 fronts and 3 backliners. Like, it's very different depending on what kind of lobby you get in. Alright, after that we have Majio Ryan Pump Some Iron. This is the funky XL. Alright, actually this is not a super go-to XL because there are just plenty of other options, right? But this Pump Some Iron, if you hit 6, you just win the game. I almost guarantee you, if you hit number 6 and you're not blocked, you will probably just win the game off of this. Right, so that's the reason why you might want to pick up Pump Some Iron. But if you want another excel option, there are other options. And if you want speed options, there's also another option. So you don't really need to go and hunt down for Majid Orion, but it's nice to pick it up just for another +1 gambling option. Right? For example, we have Cheerleader King Halo for a 6 or lower position on the final straight for acceleration, 0.2 excel. Lee Surger is a little bit more harder to use this accelerant because it is basically going to be a 6 or below by the time you hit the final straight. So it's a little bit harder, okay? Like if you're late surgeon, you're most likely in the 5th position by this point, unless your horse is really badly built, right? So you can purposely lose the late surgeon position, then you can get this accelerant to work, right? I guess up to you for this regard. Right, after that, we also have a speed skill for Narita Brian Shadow Brick, 0.25 target speed and potential speed carryover. It's not always, it's not always. It's just that if you delay the Shadow Brick proc, you can possibly get a 0.25 speed to carry over for you. Position requirement for Brian is very easy also. It's 2nd to 7th, and it's just an overtake requirement of final corner, which is very easily achieved, especially for backliners. So that's why Narita Brian is a very, very solid unique. So that's why you can see, right, for backliners, you have plenty of other options, so you don't really need to hunt down for pump. But if you can pick up pump and you do hit 6 and you don't get blocked, you just win the game. I almost guarantee it. Next, we have Ines Fujin and Victoria Paul Plancha and Mami Creek. Why do I mention all 3 at once? Sorry, add one more, Fuji Kiseki. Why do I add all 4 at once? It's because they're all in the fronts. It's 1st or 2nd for Fujin, 1st or 2nd for Plancha, 1st or 4th for Mami Creek, and 1st or 3rd for Fuji Kiseki. As long as you're in the front, any of these skills are usable. Fujin is a speed skill for finishing. The Ines Fujin is also a finishing speed skill. The Mami Creek is also a 1 to 4th accelerant of 0.1, and El Condor Pasa is an excel for 0.1 as long as you're 1st or 2nd place. Right, so all these horses are possible options for you depending on which one you have as your parent or which one you have as your grandparent. Right, so go ahead and grab any of them if you can. Alright, remember the pizza, okay? Try to finish your horse as evenly as possible. And then, of course, we have Oguri Cap Triumphant Pulse. If you have no clue what finishing speed skill to get for your horse, just fucking grab Triumphant Pulse. Because Triumphant Pulse will always give you something. Alright, as long as you're not a front runner, okay? As long as you're not a front runner, you will be able to use T-Pulse. Okay, so that's pretty much the logic here for the parents. Feel free to grab any of them in any order, but do follow the pizza analogy and finish your horse as balanced as possible. Okay, moving on. We have these stat lines. For these stat lines, we basically have 300 stamina and 300 guts as stat thresholds. So that means that if you can get 600 stam and 900 guts, it will be very, very good for boosting your speed, right? But of course, this is a mouse CM, so you don't need to go for that amount of stamina. Like even 500, 400 stamina and guts will be sufficient to survive already on this track. It's really not that stamina intensive. Okay, so in that case, if you want to sacrifice the guts and just go for a basic stamina survive and get your speed and power and wit to be max, you will be very, very happy already. Right, so for the ideal stats that you'll be aiming for, you will want to go and get 600 guts as much as possible and 600 stam as much as possible. If you can go to 900 guts, is very good. And then of course max your speed, power and wit for every single position, because it's make a new track and it's mild. So every position now, you can see the stat inflation is very real, right? Back in Ura days, you couldn't imagine these kinds of stat lines, but now we are in Man days. Man days, these stat lines are possible and definitely very, very doable for a lot of people, right? So this is a very, very strong CM for backliners, and skills are going to be one of the more determining factors, right? So next we'll talk about the actual tier list itself. We have the backliner gamblers such as Vodka, Gold Cities, Tosin Jordans, El Condor Pasa Fantasy. If you hit, you win. Right, end of story. We also have Air Groove, who has a very strong mid-leg skill. You will need to go and pump her full of gold skills, however, because she does not have her own innate gold skills. Right, sorry, not gold skills, just pump her full of good mid-legs and finishing speed skills, and also her own accelerants. Because this Air Groove only has a good, decent mid-leg. Alright, that's why I briefly mentioned her here. Okay, after that we also have Narita Brian with a very solid mid-leg skill, so you can go and use her as well. And then after that, go and pump her full of accelerants and whatnot, and she will be able to win. TM Opera O gets a special promotion from Oshi, and that's because it's very long since I've seen her. Alright, she's actually a possible speed carryover on the final corner and is actually able to win, but you have to go through some horrendous conditions to make her. So I don't expect to see a lot of these TMs here. But this TM can win. Alright, she actually can win. If you want, you can make a late surger also, and she actually can win. I've seen some New Year TMs even win on these kinds of tracks here. Alright, so TM is not like super out. Right, she can definitely try to win here, depending on what you're trying to aim for here. Right, so yeah, just adding TM to the possible list of victors for the B tier at least. After that, we have Fine Motion OG. Fine Motion OG is worse than her counterpart, the Wedding Fine Motion, so that's why she's here. She has Speed Star and a very nice mid-leg slash potential speed carryover unique for herself, so she's definitely a very viable Fine Motion OG horse. But the Wedding Fine Motion is way more specialized to this Mouse CM, so that's why that one gets a bit of a bump up to A tier. After that, we also have Ines Fujin, who also gets bumped up from Oshi tier because the slope requirement for her is so that there's only very few tracks that she can be used on, notably Tokyo. Right, so I'm just putting her here just because, like TM, Ines Fujin is possible for her to win, just that it's going to be very hard to make her win consistently. After that, for the A tiers, we have the typical boring options as per usual, right? S Maru, V Bourbon, Daiwa Scarlet, El Condor Plaza, Ghost Ship, Agnes Digital, Fuji's, any of them, Spare Chan, and Oguri Cap. Every single one of them just works on this track. For Oguri, it's a little bit harder because her end closer sparks are a little bit more annoying to hunt for, but otherwise she's a perfectly fine horse in any position in the backlines. Right? After that, El Condor Pasa. She is a little bit more tricky. Alright, a little bit more tricky. Because the lobby is very random, most likely, you might get late surger spams, you might get front runner spams. El Condor Pasa requires herself to be front. First and second place only. So if you make her front, it's very hard, but it will be very rewarding. But if you make her pace, it's RNG whether you can get her to actually be viable or not. Right? Backliner, lobbies, and then you pray for lucky pacer is possible. It's just not going to be super consistent, as there may be one or two V Bourbons or inside the lobby as well. V Bourbon and Esmara are very popular horses, so you must consider that factor. Alright? Yep, and then of course if they min-max them properly, they'll be able to win just by running it down with those two horses. Right? The other two additions to this A tier is going to be your Chiono O. Chiono O is a spring horse, and this is a spring track. She's very, very strong here. Very, very strong. Definitely able to win the whole lobby if she want to. Alright, and then on top of that, we also have Wedding Fine Motion, who's also very, very pretty much built for this kind of track here, with a good goal skill for Mal, with a neck and neck pace chaser skill, and also a unique that will work on this track with very, very good efficiency, with good speed and acceleration. Right, so this horse is just very, very well built. She's extremely powerful, able to win very, very hard as well. Right, and then after that, we go on to the S tiers. For the S tiers, we have the typical super strong acceleration options here. Right, we have Seiyun Sky herself, must be very, very, very well built. Okay, you must build your Seiyun Sky very well. But if you build her very well, she can just run it down to first. If she's first, she very likely will just win the game. Okay, after that, we also have Taiki Shuttle and Ishino Flower, who can just hit 0.4 XL and win the game from there. And we also have Ryan and also the other two, Cheerleader King Halo and Narita Taishin. So out of all of them, the only one that doesn't have an innate excel in their unique is Taishin, but Taishin has Nemesis. Nemesis is so stupidly strong on this track because it's a final corner speed skill. So at worst case it's a mid leg, and at best case it's a speed carryover. This is where Taishin is the demon because her unique is actually very, very strong. And on top of that, she has Encroaching Shadow, which is the only 0.4 XL in the game for an end closer. No one else can get it except her right now. So that's why this horse is very, very powerful and really, really, really strong. So that's why Taishin gets a humongous bump to S tier. And then for your cheerleader King Halo, she is going to be better in the end closer position, and it will require a bit more end closer sparks to kind of force her there. But if you can get her there, Daring Strike plus straightaway spurt plus her unique is very, very powerful stuff as well. Right, so this is the backliner, two Demon Lords. Right, you will see Cheerleader King Halo and Taishin almost the entire time. I guarantee you. Okay, so that's pretty much the logic here for this tier list here. Every single position can win, just depends on how well you're willing to go and build the specific horses for it. Alright, you want to go for more pace chaser bullshit, just make a runaway to boost them. If you want to go for more end closer stuff in the vacuum, just stack more end closers together. It's going to be very consistent for winning also. Right? Okay, now we move on to the skills that you're going to be hunting for this track. We have Final Push, which is your Unrestrained. It's a possible gambling option. I'm not saying it's a very good gambling option, but it's a possible gambling option for the front positions. You can also pick up Plancha and Angling and Scheming, since you're most likely going to be first or second in any way, right? You want to grab your Dodging Danger, your Prudent, and your United Spirit Wit. You want to grab all your corner skills for potential speed carryover as long as you get a lucky corner proc, alright? And besides that, just get all the generic good stuff, and of course any other finishing speed skills you can get, like your Vaudeville or your It's Go Time from Ines Fujin. For Pace Chasers, mandatory, make sure you get your Budding Blossom with a potential +1 option from Narita Brian or any of your other finishing speed skills, up to you. Head On is optional, Power is optional, and Nimble Navigator is hella optional. Alright, so just grab those if you can see them. I would say Head On is much more higher priority than the other ones, that's for sure. For your good speed skills, Speed Star is also going to be much more better for this track, alright, because the final corner is in a very, very good position, so just adding that to the list. Otherwise, just grab all your other typical good stuff for your Pace Chasers and you'll be pretty much fine. We also have the Late Surger position. For the Late Surger position, you basically want to get any of your gambles, right? Ignited Spirit Power, Slick Surge, Updrafters, Louder Trace and Shear, Pump Some Iron, anything, because you're Late Surger, just gamble, you know, just hit and you win. Right, then grab all your other good speed skills and you're pretty much done. Late Surgers have almost nothing to really go and hunt down for, but there is that new card, the Iconodictus Power card. It's a stamina card. That white skill is very, very valuable. Alright, after that we have Enclosers. For Enclosers, they have Daring Strike. They also can just grab any other XLs that they want, depending on what kind of horse they are. Then they grab Pump Iron, Louder Trace and Cheer, Straight Away Spurt, boom, win, finish. Alright, grab your playtimes, your tails, your enclosure corners, boom, you're done. Alright, these are going to be the main skills that you want to be hunting for, especially for the enclosure positions. And the possible decks that you can use to get to these kinds of positions is really, really quite flexible. 2 speed cards, 2 wit cards, 2 power cards, or even replace the 2 power cards with 2 guts cards, up to you. Or for your guts deck, you can also just do whatever order you want, because there's plenty of good guts cards for this mechanic track scenario, right? For the sample decks over here, stuff to really try to focus on is for front runners. Make sure you get your taking the lead. Going to be very, very important for fighting for the front positions, especially if you want to make a very strong lead so that you're able to go and outrun all of these backliners who are going to be on your tail the entire time. If you have Bamboo Memory Guts, it's a very good card because it has mild skills on it, right? If you happen to have Taiki Shuttle Speed by the time that CM comes out, I don't actually know if that's going to be out by that time. You can also use that card because it's a very good mild specific CM skill, right? And then other than that, for Enclosers, you must get your Daring Strike from your Mr. CB. It's very, very important, okay? So that's something to take note of here, right? And then for the card over here, for the Late Surger, just can add the Iconodictus Stamina, can be added to the parent list for Late Surgers. Right, and of course for these strategies here, there are plenty of possible options. 1 Runaway, 2 Pace Chasers, very, very strong. 2 Pace Chasers plus 1 Backliner, also very decent. 1 Pace Chaser plus 2 Backliners, also very good. And 1 Runaway Suzuka plus 1 Front Runner plus 1 random position, and then 1 Ace plus 2 Keen ID buffers. I don't like this one, okay? This is the only one I'll mention. I don't like 1 Ace plus 2 Keen ID buffers. Mal is already so volatile. And there's no Super Demon Lord Mal horse that will just win all the time. That I don't think you should gamble all eggs one basket gaming here for this Keen Eye shit, okay? I don't like it. I rather you use 3 aces. Your win rate, I almost guarantee you, will be higher. Alright? I really can tell you that much. Alright? But otherwise, if you're really lazy, getting burnt out of man, I totally understand. 1 ace, 2 Keen Eye, fuck it, just throw it in. It's possible for you to win, alright? With this kind of strategy over here. But all eggs one basket, make sure the ace doesn't happen to be a positional requirement horse, okay? Make sure it's like a generic R horse, if possible, alright? Like maybe like a Gold Ship or Taishin or anything like that, alright? Because if you make them into like, I need to be 3rd or 4th, oh my god, you might get screwed, okay? You really might get screwed. Okay, so just make sure you double check what positional requirement you're willing to gamble on before you use your Keen ID buffer here. And of course, if you want, you can just throw in some team trial horses or even like some older horses that you made for parenting, because sometimes the parents can actually have the proper skills for these kinds of team trials over here. Sorry, for these kinds of CMs over here. Right, and that pretty much will summarize this entire CM. This CM is very backliner focused and there's really quite a lot of possible options for you to go and win with. So expect a very volatile CM as everyone will be able to participate in this CM. So that means everyone can win, and even the most homeless of players will be able to win in these kinds of CMs, right? So that's pretty much it, guys. Thanks for watching. Any other questions, feel free to direct it to the Ko-fi or the Twitch or YouTube live streams, as well as the Discord. These are all the possible avenues that I've given you to go and find your answers. Alright, otherwise this CM is very fun. Just slap 3 awesome aces in there. Make sure you go and get your Mount S as much as possible, and you'll be able to definitely cheat out some victories here and there. Alright, so that's it, guys. Thanks for watching, and bye-bye.